Alright, hi everyone. We are continuing with our data structures and algorithm series. In our previous video, we saw some common problem solving patterns that helped us in solving problems with better space and time complexity. We saw how to use frequency counters and divide and conquer methods. In today's video, we will see how to identify the pattern of a question. Right? For that, we have a problem here called twosome. Twosome is a quite popular problem out there on platforms like LeetCode, HackerRank, CodeChef, etc. So let's try to identify which pattern can help us in solving this problem with a better time and space complexity. First of all, let's try to understand this problem. I have already mentioned here the input. So the input will be an array of integers and an integer target. We need to find out the indexes of two integers that will add up to the target. Meaning, if we have an array of integers 2, 7, 11 and 15, we need to find out two integers that will have the sum of 9. And if we see, the two integers are 2 and 7, right? Because if we add 2 and 7, it will give us 9. Now we need to return, or you can say for output, we need to return the array of their indexes, that will be 0 and 1. Before identifying the pattern, we also have some notes here. Not node, but note. We can assume that each input would have exactly one solution, and we cannot use same element twice, which means we cannot use this 3 twice to get the output 6. We need to use two different elements, and we can assume every input will have exactly one solution. Alright, now we have understood the problem statement properly. Now let's try to identify the pattern that will help us in solving this problem with better space and time complexity. Remember, we need to find out two integers that will sum into the target, and we need to return their indexes. If I look at my example number 1, the output will look something like 0 and 1, and target is 9 here. So can we say if I try to subtract one integer from this target, it will give me the second integer, and I just need to return their indexes. Now to get the index of this integer, we need to have a mapping here. For that, let's create a map. Right? Now we need to store our integers with their values in this map. This map object will look something like this. The value, or the integer I will say, will be the key, and their index will be our value. Now if you remember, we have seen something similar in our frequency counter pattern, right? Where we used to have the input as our key and their count as our value. But in this case, instead of having count, we are going to have indexes, right? So let's use this pattern to solve this question, right? For that, let's write a for loop. For let I equals to 0, it will run until the length of this array and then increment. Now to add the key value pair inside our map object, we just need to write map, and then as we know, the integer will be our key. For that, let's write nums I equals to the index, that will be I, right? Now we need to return the indexes of two integers, right? Can we simply do something like if map has a key that is nums I, or I can say target minus nums I, which is our difference, right? If it has this value not equals to undefined, then we can simply return the array of indexes, the array of indexes will be map target minus nums I and the current index of our for loop iteration, right? To simplify it, let me just add here the difference. Const difference equals to target minus nums I, and then I will just put here the difference and I will update here as well. Alright, I think that should be enough, but just for fallback I will simply return an array if just in case we do not found any match, right? I think that's all. This should be able to give us the output. Let's check the console. If I uncomment this line, as you can see, I am getting 0 and 1 as my output, which is correct because 2 and 7 will give me 9 if I add them. Now let's try to uncomment second example. You can see I am getting here 1 and 2, right? Which is also correct because if I add 2 and 4, it will give me 6. Now if I uncomment my third example, it is giving me 0 and 1, which is also correct because we need to add 2 different elements to get the target value. Alright, so if I ask you to find out the time complexity of this function, you can see we only have single for loop, which means the worst time complexity of this function will be O of n. Alright, let's look at this solution one last time. So our problem statement was find two integers, their sum should be equal to the target, and we find out the solution. If we subtract one integer from the target, it will give us the second integer, right? And to get the index of that second integer, we need to have a map that will have the integer and its index as a value. And then we started a for loop to iterate over the nums array. In every iteration, we try to subtract one integer from the target that gives us the difference, and then we try to find out if this difference is available in our map object or not. If that object is available, then we were returning the index of that difference and the index of current iteration. If map object does not have the difference, then we were adding the number in our map object with its index, right? And just in case if we do not found any match, we were simply returning an empty array. Alright, so that's all. That was our two-sum problem statement with time complexity of O of n. Alright, so that's all for this video. Thanks for watching.